All right, man. Let's talk about the Spurs. The
Your
Spurs
favorite
are our
team.
next team in our NBA preview. We're previewing the Southwest Division right now. San Antonio Spurs. Obviously, Victor Wembanyama. I think he has the opportunity to become the greatest basketball player of all time. We'll see if he has the health and the mental attitude to be able to do so. George, how do you feel about the Spurs' upcoming season?
I wish when we talk about this Spurs team, Tay, that Rob Dillingham was still on this Spurs team.
Man.
Draft day, you and me were hyped. I was like, they got Dillingham? They got a great slashing guard, an NBA-ready guard, a guy that can lock in and finally perimeter dudes to play off of Wemby, and they dealt him up to T-Wolves, which I love that landing spot to make Minnesota better. But this is a team in the draft. They add Stephon Castle, tough, defensive first guard, was great for Dan Hurley in repeating as national champions, and a guy that had to work his way up to the spot that he's in at his talent level too, like transferring to UConn. Dan Hurley getting the most out of him. I love Stephon Castle's game, but the offensive piece is still leaving things to be desired. But signing a Chris Paul, signing a Harrison Barnes in free agency, the leadership is there to teach these guys. And that's why you bring CP3 in. And also, let's see what minutes he plays, of what role he is, because he can be there in the playoffs. I'm excited to see Wemby and the leap he makes, man. I like their offseason. That Dillingham trade, though, will forever haunt me of what are you doing? Because if you draft well, especially with that second apron coming down, and you don't land free agents, like the reason your headliner was Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes is because you are in San Antonio. Now, as Wemby grows and gets better, then that gravity will be to get guys to play there because they'll see how good he is and he can win and he can be the guy.
Yep.
I do like their offseason, though, because they vastly improved. And think about guys like Devin Vassell at that 2 spot, 6'5", 200, big guard, can shoot, averaged almost 20 a night. With more moving parts, but most importantly, there's more help for Wemby. I don't know if there's anyone else outside of Texas more excited about a 60-loss team than you and I. I like what they did this offseason, and I think it's going to be a big jump because when you watch Wemby, and I said it to you, Tay, when he lost in that gold medal game against USA, how pissed off he was, how he didn't want to hug anybody, he didn't want to medal, he didn't want to talk to anybody. Man, old school and us coming out, that's what I want to see from a kid that has that much God-given ability and talent, but it's that drive and that want. As we talk about how these guys get motivated and fueled, I'm excited to see how Wemby gets fueled. So I'm really excited about this Spurs team, and I think they do make a big jump, Tay.
Yeah, I think they make a big jump. How big of a jump? I'm not sure yet. I don't know. I think this is a play-in team. I don't know if I have them as a play-off team just yet because they have some things that they have to figure out, which is like, how are they going to fit in these young guys? I asked the same question with the Rockets with Reed Shepherd, but like, does Stephon Castle get minutes on this team? You know what I mean? Is Devin Vassell ready to take the next jump and not just be a guy who jacks shots and plays defense, which he's good. He's a good shooter. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Devin Vassell fan. I drafted him in fantasy his rookie year because I was that big of a fan of him as a basketball player. I think he's a good basketball player. But can he take that next step? We don't know yet. Keldon Johnson, he's been flying under the radar for so long because this team has been so bad. But 16 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists from last year, that's not enough. They need another guy who's going to be a guy for them. Wemby can't just carry an offense. He won't be able to do that. He's a great player, but a little bit to what Shaq said, he's a jump shooter. And with that, you know what I mean? Just like Steph Curry, you need other guys around, great jump shooters. You know what I mean? Steph Curry can't just win you games by himself. We saw that before. You know what I mean? No offense to my Steph Curry lovers. He's the greatest point guard of all time. He can't win a game by himself. Neither can Victor Wembanyama. He's going to put them in a lot of positions to win games, but they need a second guy who's going to be consistent. So I would love to see a Stephon Castle be built up because the Spurs aren't winning an NBA championship this year.
No.
That's the honest truth. You know what I mean? I would love to see a Harrison Ingram, a guy they also took in the draft this year, build up. He's probably going to spend more time in the San Antonio G League than, Stephon Castle will. But it's one of those things where they're guards are loaded again. I mean, you got Trey Jones, you got a Hall of Famer Chris Paul, you got Devin Vassell, you got Malachi Branham, who played a lot of great minutes for this team last year. You know what I'm saying? Then you add Brandon Boston Jr., who they hope can be a good player for them, which is why they took a chance on signing him and adding him to this team. So you have a lot of potential there. Once again, a lot of potential with guys who could be great, who could be good for this team, but you need to figure out who is going to be that second guy next to Victor in the future, and it's not going to be Chris Paul.
I don't see anyone on this current roster, and that's why, like, I'm not saying Dillingham could have been that guy, but he can elevate a Vassell because of what Dillingham would bring, especially as a slasher, a guy that likes to go to the cup and go around the rim, and is an NBA-ready guard right now. But they need that too. But because of Wemby, that's why we put him in this conversation of playoffs and play-in. Yeah. I like that call of them being in the play-in. It's going to be a massive leap for them.
Yeah.
But when you have someone as special as Victor Wembanyama on both ends of the floor, especially defensively, how he's a straight-up shot eraser, not a blocker, eraser.
Yeah.
I just think he brings so much upside. And we know what the Spurs are. We know what Greg Popovich is. Like, guy comes in, basically, they're a G League extended team. Bring in, teach him how to play the game, ship him off. Look at Derek White. Look at some of the pieces that have been around the league, right?
Yeah.
Even Alani Walker at this part in his career, but I'm not going to put him and D. White in the same breath. I would like to see them build something with Wemby, though. It's just the uniqueness of the NBA of, I've never been to you ever been to a Spurs game? You spending your time in UTEP?
No. I've been to San Antonio a couple of times, but never been to a Spurs game.
We got to go to a Spurs game, bro. Just the fact that we're in San Antonio, Texas, the Alamo, and then wherever that building is, one of the worst arenas in the league, and they have one of the most talented players on the globe.
Yeah.
I just love it. This is why I love sport, Tay.
Yeah.
And what would make me love sport even more is this Spurs team being in the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay, so look, I have to ask you this because I would be remiss to not ask you this. Travis has Stephon Castle as his rookie of the year. That's who he's been rolling with. I could text him right now, and he's going to tell me the exact same thing. Stephon Castle is his guy. Do you think Stephon has a path to becoming the rookie of the year in the NBA this year?
I think the scoring has to be there when I want to think about who the rookie of the year is going to be, and the minutes. And that's why I keep going to that Dalton Connect. We spoke about it with Reed Shepherd. It's like, where are his minutes going to come from? Where are his shots going to come from? Dalton Connect is a guy on both ends of the floor, big, physical, strong, but has to play now for your Lakers because they didn't get DeMar because their best player decided to go and take the max money he can and just blow up them actually building out a team. I think because of the usage, I think because of the role, and I think because of scoring and opportunities will be there. It's tough, and you keep floating them my way. I just don't see anything outside of Dalton Connect. Because I need to see that actual likelihood of Castle. But he's not a number 2 or 3 on this team, scoring-wise at least. He could play important minutes. I mean, he could be like all-rookie defensive, but I don't see him being all like a rookie of the year.
Yeah, I know. They should have an award for that. He might, be first team, all rookie team, but I probably don't see him winning rookie of the year now, especially because Chris Paul is here. Trey Jones has to play because he's such a good guard. He takes care of the basketball, a lot like his brother. You know what I mean? Terrible defensively, but really good at commanding an offense. I did want to ask you this too. Now, this is a hypothetical, right?
Oh, I love talking to hypotheticals.
If the Spurs were somehow to miraculously end up being a top 4 team in the West this year, will Victor Wembanyama win MVP?
Yes. Let's think about – I can't picture – when you say top 4, I'm just picturing 4.
Yeah.
But let's seed the West real quick. OKC is the 1 seed. I think you and I are lock in step with that. We see the T-Wolves taking a leap and also the Nuggets falling off. I think Minnesota could be that 2.
Yep.
Mavericks as a 3. They got better. We'll see what Luka gets. Him and Kyrie. A good, young, talented team that got that playoff experience. Like a jump in Derek Lively.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the Clippers. Maybe the Suns as a 3. But if you have Victor Wembanyama, and the Nuggets could be that 3, but I hate how that roster keeps going. But that's exactly it. Like, if they're the 4 seed, let's just think about who they're in front of.
Yep.
Jokic, Booker, KD, Warriors, Kings.
Yep.
If they're the 4 seed, and the only way they get to being beyond a play, I think we could say if they're a 6 seed or better, does he get MVP? But that top 4 seed of what it says, I think he'd be MVP because it's going to be on the back of Wemby and his impact on the floor, right?
Yeah, no, I think I'm right there with you. It's just kind of crazy to think about. Like, if he were to do that, like, the world would be on fire. I think, like, the amount of Wemby clips that we would have on Twitter, I don't even think I'd be able to find any other topics to talk about because he'd be the only one. You know what I'm saying? So I'm right there with you. He's a special player, and if he gets the opportunity to be a winning player in this league, because he was already, people were talking about him for Defensive Player of the Year, which I think he should have won.
I think he should have too.
They only won 22 games, and he was I thought he should have been Defensive Player of the Year. So if you tack on winning to the resume that he's already kind of built up throughout his rookie season, man, and you only expect him to get better, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, he averaged like 20
You're projecting by putting this hypothetical, and I agree.
Right. Like, he averaged 21 and 11 last year. You know what I mean? So it's like, I only expect him to average at least 25 next year. You know what I mean? Like, it could be kind of scary. The last thing I did want to ask you about with this Spurs team is, too, like, will Harrison Barnes and CP3 as the new vets of this team actually make a difference in winning for these young guys?
Right now?
Yes.
This season?
This season.
I think they make a difference now. I think their impact's going to be more beneficial next season, 2 seasons from now, because that's the guys you get in to show them how to be a pro, to be that vet. And kudos to them for saying, fine, I'll take a paycheck. I'll go to San Antonio. I'll take on that veteran role, going from a guy in Harrison Barnes that is a key piece and a big piece for the Warriors, and even a guy like Chris Paul, everywhere he's been, of going, I'll be around greatness. And I think that's, Chris Paul loves ball. Yeah. He loves the sport. He loves the league. He loves pouring himself into the younger guys. So it's a reflection of the leaders they are. Like, credit to them. How can I say they wouldn't affect winning right now? And it's beyond what they do on the floor, literally in measurable stats, but how they can elevate a guy like a Vassell, and how Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul can elevate guys like a Stephon Castle, and just being around Wemby, you know?
Yeah. I agree. I think the biggest part about those two coming in is that they understand defensive positioning, right? When you look at the Spurs roster, they do have some good on-ball defenders, guys who are good athletes, who slide their feet well and all that type of stuff. Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sochan, obviously Wemby. Those are 4 guys that are probably going to get either a lot of minutes or be starting for this Spurs team that can really be good on-ball defenders. Where they lack is defensive positioning. And that's where Chris Paul in practice is tugging guys' jerseys. That's where Harrison Barnes is talking to guys on the sideline in game. Hey, like, you need to be 2 steps over here. Hey, you need to be 1 step over here. Hey, you need to be talking here, telling me what you're thinking here, da-da-da-da-da. These 2 guys can really help in those aspects of the game, the nuance that people don't see on TV. You know what I mean? That's where, like you said, 2-3 years from now, these guys are going to remember, like, oh, yeah, HB told me I got to be 2 slides to the left on this when this happens. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, Chris Paul told me when this screen comes, I got to get low and do this to get through it. Blah, 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 whatever. You know what I mean? Those things where it's like defense is a physical thing for sure. It's a want-to, physical, got to be strong, got to be fast to be a great defender. No question about that. But it's also as much of a mental game as offense is, honestly. You have to be able to understand what the offense wants to do, what guys like, and how to take it away. And those 2 dudes understand that at a high level.
To take away options, to take away what the opponent is seeing is so important. And you pointed out, and that's again of like what they will do will be immeasurable, and we won't know it, but they will. Yeah. You said it. It's in practice, and we see it on national TV.
Yep.
When we see Vassell or Stephon Castle being in the right spot at the right time, or just knowing how to counter some of the offensive sets they're facing and screens, and how they're being put in or attempted to be put in these mismatches, but knows how to get out of trouble and get a defensive stop. It'll be credit to those 2. So that's why I think it's important. Like, I like this free agency signings. They need that number 2, but it's about the long term with Victor Wembanyama. I think that's what's so important with this team. So I think they'll impact this team now. I'm excited 2, 3, 4 years from now. And shoot, man, when Wemby gets to the mountaintop, the credit that Chris Paul will get and Harrison Barnes will get, and you put guys like that around Greg Popovich too and his staff. Like, what more can you want for Wemby? And I'm excited for a guy like Stephon Castle to be there, because again, that's how he gets elevated, and that's how you even get ahead of schedule with Stephon Castle, where he's ready to play now defensively and as a point guard, as a ball handler.
Yep.
But offensively needs to bring more, and those guys will bring it out of him.
100%. I'm with you. And I love that you said when Wemby gets there, because I got a feeling that he's going to be up there at least a couple of times in his career.
I like doing that now, Because when we speak about these guys, you have to project.
Yeah.
You know, and I get the if, but you have those special players.
Yep.
There are those special people. Not if, but when. Wemby is one of those guys.
100%.